What's your, I don't know, I didn't think I'd get this far moment? When I realized I've been in a stable relationship for 4 years and people start asking when we're getting engaged. That story is happening now. I quit smoking yesterday, and it didn't go well. I broke down and had 2 cigarettes. I woke up this morning, and had another without even registering what I was doing. That's what happens when you smoke for 23 years, it's just an unconscious act. After that, I shredded all my cigarettes and threw them in the trash. I hunted down all my lighters and threw them away, took my 2 outside ashtrays and emptied them, and threw them in the garbage. I've been chewing nicotine gum all day. The cravings are unbearable, but I've mitigated them by doing a bunch of yard work, taking naps, going for walks, and running errands. I haven't had a cigarette in about 17 hours, and it's by far the longest amount of time I've gone without smoking in 23 years. I'm kind of blown away that I've made it this far, but I have no idea what tomorrow will be like, but I'm feeling more confident by the hour. Graduating college a few months back. Always figured I'd off myself at some point before I got here. Now what? I paid off my mortgage a couple months ago. It had been my focus for the last few years to just pump all my money into it, especially for lack of anything better to do during the pandemic. And then I had to put my cat down like a week beforehand. So I was sitting in this house I just paid off, literally alone, feeling like I should be celebrating but instead feeling like utter crap. When I pulled myself out of the dent in a truck's hood, AMD realized that I had fallen from the second story, and was still alive. Specifically, my thought once I could see straight was as follows. How am I still alive? Asterisk checks aching but unbroken limbs. Surprised at counting all 4. I don't know, I didn't think I'd make it that far. Asterisk referring to the distance between me and the hole I made. I managed to go onto a porn website on a school Chromebook in 10th period study hall. I just sat in awe for like 10 minutes, then X'd out the tab and finished my math homework. This doesn't really fit the theme of your question up, but I really like this story and it kinda applies. And #X200B. For context, I'm a lesbian, which makes this story a whole lot funnier. When I was in 8th grade, one liked this girl who we'll call J, but she had this best friend in our class. We'll call her S, and they always did everything together. The whole year, her and S would do projects, spend free periods together, read over each other's work. I think my teacher knew I had a crush on her because she would always put my assigned seat near her and I would converse with her when S was doing something else. And whenever a teacher told us that we could pick our partners for something, I was always the first one to ask her to be my partner. She usually said no OFC because she wanted to work with S. I eventually became accustomed to it but still asked her every time anyway. It got to the point where someone else would want to be my partner and I would be like, yeah sure, let me just ask J first. Also, if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I'm really good at working in groups. I always pull my weight and am a team leader when I need to be. Then one day in like March they got into a fight or something, IDK, and weren't talking. That day also happened to be the day where my science teacher was assigning the longest project that would take like weeks to finish. So I do my usual shtick of asking J to be my partner, expecting her to say no and work with S, and she surprisingly says yes. I'm flabbergasted because I had already started work on the project individually. Just like the first organizational steps. Nothing major. And she's just smiling at me waiting for me to start talking. Long story short, we end up working together well and get a really good grade, and eventually she stops hanging out with S as much. It turns out she's bisexual and we've been dating 3 years now. I just completed a master's after telling myself age 19 that I never even wanted to get a degree at all. Funny thing is though that I can't find a job after all that. I'm about to break up with someone I probably never should have started with tomorrow. Wish me luck. Probably opening for a big band for my first ever time on stage. Mortifying. Even the sound guy could very clearly see it was my first sound check. Dude, we were all in his basement like a week ago. I just happened to know the promoter. She needed to fill the spot, called me, and we were all smash drunk when we said yes, okay. Please stop yelling at me. I was pretty badass for being a rock star, obviously. I gave my resume to fancy private school. I'm a teacher, but new to the field, and I didn't expect a call back. But they called me today to ask my expected salary and I said, I don't know what the average is. Let me Google it. Ya girl was not prepared. Had a girl come over and just sat with her home alone and asked her what she wanted to do. With no response, I just sat there and finished watching The Dirt on Netflix. When I was a child, we had a family reunion in a park with a lake and a small beach. Off the side of the lake, far away from where the lifeguards were, was a deck about 10 feet above the water, and a structure with rings hanging for you to swing on, grab the next, etc. I felt the need to try it. After I got to the last ring, I realized I was just as far from shore as I was to a floating platform near the beach. My arms were tired from making it to the end. No way could I manage swinging back to the deck, so I dropped into the water and tried swimming to the platform. That's when I realized I fucked up. I knew how to swim, but I was not prepared for the exhaustion in my arms. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to make it to the platform, but had no energy to actually climb the tiny rope ladder to make it on top of the platform to rest. So I just grabbed it and rested while in the water for 15 minutes. Before feeling confident I could make close enough to the beach where my feet could touch the bottom. I literally thought I was going to drown at one point. When me and my fiancé moved into our own apartment together, we'd actually lived together with my mom's, his mom and my siblings for a year, but that's a long story. Anyway, I didn't really know what to do because I had never fully considered it as an option as something he'd want to do. Domestic life was domestic confusing. Was a scrubby teen weirdo on the fast track to turning into a greasy incel. I somehow convinced myself that if I couldn't date the prettiest girl in school, then it must mean that all girls are stupid and stuck up. She actually said, yes, and we dated for a month. I was still a socially underdeveloped cringe buffet and ruined the relationship, but she was nice and I learned a lot from the experience. I even got to touch a boob. I had a GF for a year and a few months. Was the best time of my life, then she just stopped responding. Every day of my life. The entire last 6 years of my life. I went from a depressed, suicidal new college grad to therapy and then to a digital nomad. I've lived and worked in 3 countries, speak 4 languages and have been to 48 countries so far. When I first started therapy, I didn't think I'd make it 6 months. Now I'm making plans to move abroad more permanently. I definitely didn't think I'd get this far. After I passed my driver's test, I went from a stimmy check to $140,000 on my first penny stock. Never had time to wrap my head around it before it pulled back to $20,000. Still way up though. Somehow got into medical school. Now I am an incoming resident physician and I have no idea what I am doing. Every day. My mom died when I was 13 and I've been struggling with depression ever since. It's been up recently, but the biggest moment was a few years ago when I got my GED and just had a moment of, I didn't think I'd still be alive by now. I'm science fair, made it to county, next would be state. Had no idea what I was doing. My entire legal career I have 4 degrees and a 10-year career in commercial litigation. I just wrapped up a $200 mill trusts lawsuit. I started at uni doing theater and stand-up comedy. I have no fucking idea where I turned to get here. I fell into my career by pure accident. That was 29.5 years ago. Graduating college. Currently living at home with parents, jobless, and isolated from the outside world due to quarantine. And the cherry on top. No idea where my life is headed, and still trying to figure out what to do in life. Honestly, when I joined the military, and I have no fucking clue what I'll do when my time's up. Being silent the whole school year, even at home. My entire life. It makes no sense at all. I started a website 12 years ago. The first 5 years were insane. Loads of traffic. I paid cash for a house, car, and ended up with 0 debt at all. Then social media starts becoming big and it slowly just drains traffic away. Old school websites like this can't really compete with Instagram, Twitter, or a Facebook without a cash injection, and fuck if I wanted to spend my money on it. The entire thing was basically free thanks to WordPress being dirt cheap. I just accepted its inevitable demise. The last 7 years have just been one thing, swooping in and saving it after another. Asterisk 6 years in and it's still kicking. I'm only making like 35k a year, so I'm prepping to do something else. Asterisk 7 years in I start a Patreon on a whim and people flood it, saving it. Asterisk 8 years in I'm at about 35k again and it's looking like I'm only going to get another year or two. Asterisk 9 years in and I YOLO responding to one of those 300 ad company emails begging us to work with them. I figured they were all just scams since they send super generic. We read this amazing post of yours and want to work with you on X. Turns out it wasn't. They fix all of my ads, optimize the fuck out of the site, and I'm back to making good money in a few months. Asterisk 10 years in and it's still good money, but again, just slowly dying. Asterisk 11 years and I'm definitely looking for something else to do since I swear we've exhausted everything, and then the world collapses. The government says asterisk, hey self-employed people, come collect a bunch of money if you are struggling, asterisk. So I do. Back to 45-something thousand with the PUA. And then Biden says, that PUA money? It's untaxed up to 10k or something. Congrats. God damn. Asterisk 12 years. This year, and the ad company phones me up and says they have a brand new initiative for my site and let's give it a shot. Bam, plus 30% ad revenue. It's like the universe doesn't want this shit to die. The site was getting 1 million views a day at its peak. Now it gets like 30k views? Oh, and that house I bought? Yeah, I'm about to sell it and just retire cause it's worth quadruple what I bought it for, so why not? Did I mention the Doge I bought as a joke 2 years ago? My life makes no fucking sense. I applied for a mortgage loan to waste time since I can never get credit. Boy was I surprised to find out I had a 740 credit score and secured financing. Holding the keys to my new home was an experience. I worked up the nerve and complimented a coworker I admire about their shirt and they smiled and thanked me. What do I do now? Edit. I mean, other than have a social anxiety attack, because obviously that's a thing that's happening. Based on my frustrations with the housing market in my city, I'll have one of these moments whenever I do manage to buy a house. Like, what now? Furniture? Paint all of the walls yellow? Tile every single surface? I used to practice the piano and played at many concerts for my teacher. Once, I thought it was another concert, but turns out it was a competition. I won second place, right after my senior teacher asked me what I wanted to say. I just turned around, grabbed a small bag of candy I had in my pockets, ate it all, turned back around and asked, all right, what was I supposed to do again? Then I just went down to the audience, called my friend and said, all right, how do we figure out what to say without getting nervous or getting an anxiety attack? My friend H told me something, then hung up. I proceeded to grab the microphone, said, hey y'all, name, said hi, bye, then walked out. Looked like a tomato. I made it to senior year, boys. I'm maybe 5 years off retiring. People keep asking me what I am going to do once I get there. This is pretty much my reply. ETA. Thanks for all the advice. I've got a few ideas about post-retirement life and a few hobbies I want to pick back up. I'll be doing some volunteering as well. In grade 6 I found an old unused model rocket, so I built and launched it with my dad. I decided to try and make my own from scratch and hope it didn't explode. Only a year later and I am now 5 rockets deep and almost ready to launch my multi-stage camera-equipped approx. 0.75 meters tall Mk5. This is what happens when you give a kid resources and the ability to learn and create independently instead of the rail that they put you on in school. How I lost my virginity. I texted a girl on Tinder, very rare. Asked if she wanted to come over. Turned out she was in my apartment in my housemate's room next door. Lost my virginity 10 minutes later. I was shocked to say the least. I was in a tag like capture the flag game where you grab the flag on someone and you have to make sure nobody takes you or you're out. So I was playing it during gym and we had just started and we were playing and I kinda just sat at the border. The teacher set up nobody could go past it so they couldn't get me from behind, and by the time round 1 was over there was only a few kids left, and so the border got smaller and smaller as the game went on. By the time I knew it there was just me and this other kid. Both of us got lucky getting to the finals cause some dude accidentally pulled his own flag of with someone else's, and so we're both standing there like, what do we do now? And by the end of it we both just walked out of bounds and we both lost. 1. Getting a college degree. After my freshman year of college, I was worried that I would drop out due to stress sometime in my junior year, that I would make it to my final semester and not be able to do well in the senior project class, or that I would fail some of the hardest classes in my senior year. Ended up graduating May 16th. For anyone wondering, my degree is in computer science. Every time I win as imposter in Among Us. Graduation at recruit training. Very surprised I made it through that. When I was watching Edge of Tomorrow before bed and I got to the part where he says, "I don't know, we've never gotten this far." Years ago I was applying to a bunch of copywriting jobs and feeling frustrated because I wasn't hearing back from any of the places I was applying to. It was especially frustrating because I was putting in all this time on cover letters and I felt like nobody was even reading them. So I said, fuck it, I'm gonna write one that is more me. I thought it was a dumb idea and never imagined that it would work, but somehow it did. I applied with this cover letter. http://i.imager.com/hama3i4b.png and the subject line, copywriter. Will work for beer, to a job that I was very underqualified for. It managed to catch the eye of the headhunter for the ad agency and was enough to get me an interview. Shortly after that I was hired and ended up working there for a few years, but I remember thinking on my first day, I can't believe that actually worked. When I went for a walk-in interview looking like crap and they hired me on the spot. I get they were hiring for a new store, but they up and said, if you want the job it's yours, when can you start? Deadass didn't think I'd make it that far. Started at a very small company doing sales straight out of college. I went about messaging big corporate players, who obviously would never do business with us since our size, and was laughed at by my new colleagues for even trying. 2 weeks later my boss was asking me what we, a team of 6, should say on the conference call with Toshiba buyers. I moved in with an old friend from high school, got horny one night and we slept together, and now we're married. We're discussing having children and I'm like, didn't think it would go this far LMAO. Me at work. I feel like every issue that comes up has me unprepared. But I am always praised for my good work. So, I assume I have imposter syndrome and keep doing what I am doing. Thanks for watching. See you later.